been a long time. Welcome to the Q and Trey and Jordan. We got Tennessee in the house. We have Michigan in the house. We have a lot of other places in the house. Jordan, thanks for joining me.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good. Do you realize it's been 5 months since you had me on your channel?
Really?
Yeah.
It's probably been that long since I've made videos. All right, we got Texas. We're okay now. We got Texas in the house.
Nice.
You know what I really don't like?
What?
That water bottle in the frame.
How do I can't see myself. So.
Right there.
Okay.
Boom. You can't see yourself?
No.
Now we got Florida. It's Jim Hall. Remember I always tell you about Jim Hall? Mm-hmm. Even though it's a different Jim Hall. Jim Hall was so kind. I don't know if you want... It's not... Sometimes people do nice things, and I think, do they not want that to be public? But he just checked in on me. He was like, hey, I haven't noticed YouTube videos in a while. So that's nice. I appreciate that.
Yeah. We
have David Rowland in the house. Grateful for you guys. So we're going to talk about... Now, Jordan, I need to make sure I don't get in trouble.
Okay.
So that's your job. Mm-hmm. So when the frame's on me, I need you to give me certain faces.
I don't know when the frame is on you or when the frame is on me.
Oh.
I can only see the delayed response.
So when I'm talking, there's a highest likelihood that it's on me. So I'm explaining things, just kind of go.
Okay.
Okay. All right. What's up, Cademan59? I really miss going live, and I've been thinking a lot about different YouTube strategy, and I don't know if going live is a smart part of it, but I miss it. It's fun, especially me and you. Everybody says that's their favorite part is when we hang out.
Yeah, I like hanging out with you. So.
You do?
Yes. Also, I feel like you're talking with this low radio voice or something.
Right now?
Yes.
Maybe it's because the kids.
I don't know, but you're at this low octave that I don't know. It's funny.
No way. He says, you know who I am? I used to help out your grandparents. Tennessee Joe.
Oh wow.
Wow. Good to see you or hear from you. Thinking out loud with PJ. Miss you guys. I need to hang out with my Vlogger Ministry crew. What's up, Jeffrey? And anyways, we're going to jump into this soon. Hey, Trey, missed you, man. Glad to see you back. Thanks, Brandon. We got the crew just showing up tonight, and that makes me happy. If you'll notice, the quality of our videos is going to be a little bit better these days.
There you go with that voice again.
What am I doing?
I don't know.
Should I put my headphones out? Maybe that's what I'm like.
Is that what you're doing? I don't know.
So I like to sound different, so I'll stop.
No, I'm not complaining. It's just I found it interesting.
Now I don't know how we sound, but are you bringing back praying the Psalms? Jordan, should I bring back praying the Psalms? My answer is probably no, but what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, that's up to you. You're the one who does it. I have no idea. I mean, it's helpful. I like it. But again, sorry, I love you and I love everything you do, but it was at the time where I'm getting kids ready and dropping off and I'm not able to sit down with my actual Bible and read and pray through the actual Psalm. I'm listening to it while I'm doing all these things, but I feel like it's not the same as actually sitting down and getting to go through it. Mm-hmm. So I was never really able to participate. I think it's really cool. But I
think a bummer is that it's George and Joanne. George, the guy who took care of the Tennessee ranch.
So funny.
My grandma sold it. My grandma's doing well. I imagine you keep up, but so good to hear from you guys. Anyway, so yeah, the problem is, so I actually, it's March 11th. Yeah. 5 years ago is when I did the documentary every day in March, starting off vlogging.
Wow.
Babe, that was 5 years ago.
That's crazy. Sayla wasn't even born yet.
Right.
We had one kid.
Yeah. So what I've realized is 5 years of this. So this last year was the year that I posted the least. And a big part of that is because of this whole California thing, which will be the main topic of tonight. But what I have realized is those first 3 years, especially, I had to upload 3 times a week. because I believe that lie that YouTube will bless you if you keep uploading. Right. And I think part of it, like in retrospect, is really, really great that I always kept uploading because I got better at my craft. I learned a lot about myself, a lot about communication, but also I think an unhealthy part of it was I'm going to make it big. I just need that. It's almost like the lottery, right? Like, if I just upload this video, that's what's going to make it.
Right.
And so I really want to do things. It's a difficult balance as I'm thinking about what to do next, because I want to do things that have an impact, like actual significance. The problem with that is now I've been thinking of videos and now none of the videos in my mind are good enough. So now perfectionism is getting in the way. So I don't want to do that. But the Psalms one, what I found is that people, if they didn't catch it live, they just didn't pray at all. I don't know. As far as views and subscribers and retention, all those things, the praying through the Psalms were the worst. But as far as spiritual significance, helping bless people in their week, praying through the Psalms was the best. So what a weird conundrum, So I'm not sure which one to roll with. I was talking to Jason Mayfield today. Me and him have talked a lot. Shout out to him. He's been very, very helpful to me with everything that's been going on. But what's been great, what he mentioned is I need to finish my project that I'm working on. And once I'm done with that, then I can really, I can really make sure I can make those decisions on what the content looks like. All right, you're back. You're being a mom.
Still not done doing that.
What are you doing, girl? Our girl's about to turn 7 in 3 days.
Oh my goodness, it's crazy.
That's another thing. A lot of the viewers have seen her grow up since she was 2.
She was little.
Technically 1 and turned 2. So,
yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the last 8 months. What do you think?
Oh man, the last 8 months was a lot. Still, I feel like in a way, still processing and kind of working through everything. But I had taken a step back from social media. And I don't know that I knew it at the time, but I think it was just because so much of our life was a secret, we were only allowed to let a select few in just because we didn't know much. We didn't want to overstep or do anything. And so it was I felt how do you share? I mean, I felt like you went through the same thing with YouTube. It's how do you share authentically what's going on in your life when a huge part of your life you can't share? Right. So I feel like that was really hard I missed that connection with people. And I had some people reach out over the months of hey, haven't seen you in a while. Is your family okay? True. I was very active on social media. So I feel like it changed kind of my day-to-day lifestyle in a way. Yeah. Which is weird. And now I feel like I'm in this groove of not being on social media, which I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm not quite missing social media like I thought I would. But anyways, all that to say, it was just so weird. I feel like it affected so many areas of our life for such a long period of time.
That might be what's most frustrating about all of it is we're going to jump around on the conversation a lot, I guess. But I do feel like in some ways my life was on pause for the last 8 months. And it wasn't just a pause. I don't know. It was preparing. We knew the task that was ahead of us would be a lot different. Yeah. Would be at a greater size. Uh-oh. Everything is just glitching. It was my camera. What's going on here? You got to talk again. Something's going on with my camera.
Okay.
What in the world? Go ahead.
I don't even remember what you were saying.
You know what we might do?
What?
Might pull an audible. Just keep talking.
Okay. What were you even saying? So much, I don't even know.
Our life was on pause.
Our life was on pause. Yeah. Yeah, in a lot of areas. I felt with different things of I don't want to plan an event, or I don't want to do certain things, because then it's what if I just up and leave? And And yeah, it was just a lot. Like we felt like we just were sitting in this like weird limbo where it was hard to make a decision about anything in life.
Okay. Move over there.
Me move over there?
Yeah.
Like with my chair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something happened.
That light.
Hold on, guys. I don't know if it's leveled or not, but does it look level to you? Not at all, huh?
No, that's way too far that way.
It's all right now or no?
I thought you went too far down, but I could be wrong.
Goodness. What are the people saying?
Nothing.
That better?
I think so. Pick your hair up, turn your pillow over, and you'll be fine. Turn your pillow over, and then pick your hair up like that. So it doesn't get wet.
All right. Are we all right?
I think it looks like we're still going.
Let me make sure it sounds good. Hey, go to bed. Enough.
Our little hypochondriac.
Sorry, guys. Nobody's commented. So personal, yeah. All right. Let's see here. Do a little Passion Creek sponsorship. Okay. I don't know what happened. I think it was my HDMI cord.
Oh, weird.
I knew it was a bad one. I was just risking it. Now I can actually focus on the conversation and not switch back and forth. So this might be the best thing. Okay, so for 8 months. Should we just start at square one?
Yeah.
I do want to say, okay, it's been 2 weeks since we were driving home, and we realized 2 weeks from today that what we've been planning for, I want to say we were planning for it for 8 months because we were definitely...
Yeah, we fought it for like
6
or 7
6 months, yeah. But it was still like a possibility.
Yeah.
So this conversation is going to be a lot about understanding God's sovereignty and not, because I feel like we don't right now, God's plan, discernment process, all that stuff. So 8 months ago, we had our sabbatical, and I felt like the Lord clearly was calling me to it. I have a whole sabbatical series on that on my YouTube channel that I'm pretty proud of. And with that, the first day of my sabbatical, the very, very, very first day, the morning of, I was up for about 30 minutes. It was an early phone call I got from one of my great mentors from yesteryear. And they just said, hey, consider this position. And I initially said no, but I said, well, considering who you are, I'll honor that first of all. But also, this is the first day of sabbatical. So I honestly have gotten a few job offers like the last couple of years, especially because my YouTube channel, remember, especially that one like in New York was like, hey, come work. And I was like, nah, I'm not interested at all. So that wasn't like my first job. It's not like my first job offer ever. I was like, yeah, I'm in. Never sent out resumes, none of that. Never interested in that. I've always wanted to be a lifer, and that was my initial response. I want to be a lifer. I don't have interest in that. But then, through conversation, I thought, okay, I'll pray about it. So that's what we did. I'm not going to give the full version, I guess, that I gave the church, but that July we went to that church, visited it, thought, okay. I think the biggest thing is we never thought like, oh no, this is a bad church. I just thought this isn't the right fit.
Right.
Praise the Lord for that church.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord for what they're doing. They're in a great location. They have so many things working for them. And that part was attractive. But I thought, well, at the age I'm at, which is another part of the conversation, I'm a church planter at heart. And I don't know if they would consider the position of revitalizing. I think it is, because it's not what it used to be. It's still a great big church, but it's used to be really, really big. And so, I thought, I don't know if because I'm a church planter at heart. So that was one of the biggest things, just even logically, we're like, is this the job? So again, here's the thing I'm learning. I might make a vlog about this, but John Bolin, my brother-in-law, he was on my podcast like 4.5 years ago. And he had this line, do you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Where he said, our generation, millennials, need to understand the difference between transparency and authenticity. So authenticity is a huge value. Just even talking about that area. So the area I was at, the largest church in that area is Sandals Church. And Sandals, they're brilliant with their marketing and branding and all that, but their whole thing is to be real with God, ourselves, and others. Be with ourselves, God, and others. And so authenticity, like they have tapped into that ache. And so I think that's something that I've always been passionate about in my YouTube channel and just in my life. Like I really want to be authentic. You know, being a 4th generation pastor, I've been able to see a lot of pastors in my life. I'm not, you know, I think what's unique about my dad and my grandpa and great grandpa is I think they lead from an authentic place. But I've seen a lot of pastors that don't lead from authenticity. Right. You know, like I've been in those green rooms where on the pulpit, they sound so spiritual and loving and sacrificial. And then in the green room, it's like, do you believe anything you just said? And I hate that. Like with everything in my being, I don't want to become, this all has a point, but I don't want to become that person. I have zero interest. And if I become that person, like I want you to say, we're out of ministry, you know? And so that's why like whenever I do podcast interviews, since I started 5 years ago, the question has always been, do you fear you share too much? And I've always said, you know, I just wait for my wife to tell me if I've done too much. And there are times where I've said, hey, you know, what do you think about this? Should I share that? You're generally pretty open too, though. It's not like I'm the only open one here.
I post at least I did 9 months ago, post most of my life on social media. So
yeah. And so I do find that interesting, the timing of 9 months. It's like what it takes to birth something new. But anyways, so John's point in the podcast, which is really good, and I'm probably going to do a vlog about it, is he says, you have to always be authentic, but be careful about always being transparent. And I think he goes on to say, I need to listen to it again. But essentially, like, yes, you're supposed to be transparent, but with only a few.
Right.
And what was that thing you were just sharing about the different kind of amount of people we have, like the tribes in our life?
Yeah. Like all of it.
Yeah, I think it's helpful.
Yeah, I was reading a book by Jenny Allen, her brand new book called Find Your People. And she talks about how we have like the capacity to know, like to actually know someone, no more than like 150 people. But then you can only have like 50 or so like acquaintances. So meaning you kind of keep up with them, you know what's going on in their lives, but not like to like an everyday extent. And then you have like a village, which is 15 to 25 people who you do life with, and like you help take care of each other's kids and drop off meals and just different things like that. And then you've got your inner circle, which is 2 to 5 people that know the sins that you struggle with, the guilt and the shame that you carry around. Like they know the deepest parts of your life. Mm-hmm. But those acquaintances and that village doesn't need to know all of those innermost feelings, you know, the things that we have. But we do need an inner circle. Like she was saying, like we need all of those areas as human beings. Like that's how God created us.
Yeah. And the unique thing about being a pastor though is, of all people, Snowy Owl, not necessarily. You can keep up with me. We kind of just started. The unique thing about being a pastor is, you know, like most people only like connected with 150. Well, pastors can be connected with a lot more than that. Right. And then you take social media personality, like that's a lot more. And so that's really interesting and a weird way to look at life. Make sure you guys hit the like button if you haven't. That'll help the algorithm. Here I am back in the game. But anyways, he says you need to be authentic with everybody, but transparent with a few. And so, but the question is always like, I think that's total wisdom. The question is, what is transparent? What's authentic? You know?
Right.
And clearly, like, I haven't been an open book about anything yet. Like, there's certain things in our life and our marriage and our church, especially, like struggles that our church members are going through, issues I've had in leadership that I think would be really helpful lessons. I don't share because I know it would hurt that church member, you know?
Right.
So like I have always practiced that to an extent, the difference between authenticity and transparency. And Cameron, he's a great pastor. I love that. He, like, this is what inspires me. He says, I love that about your vlogs and lives. You've inspired my spiritual life immensely through your transparency and vulnerability and processing. And so it's hard for me, and this all makes sense in a second, but like, I'm a storyteller. Like, when I think about like who I want to be known for, like, what do I want to be known for? I don't really have a desire to be like this brilliant theologian. I'm grateful for them. I don't have a desire to be an apologetic guy that is just brilliantly tearing down other people's worldviews. I'm grateful for those guys. I want to be somebody who like is poetic about life, like who enjoys the little things, really is known as somebody who just wants to tell the story of his life. And so great stories have highs and lows. Great stories have this challenge, this embarrassing moment. And everybody agrees to share that embarrassing moment 10 years later. But what kind of makes my strategy different is I'd rather share it 10 days later. You know, like, I want to share the story now. And the thing is too, is like a lot of my vlogs this is one video is like a chapter, you know? So like some of the videos, it ends on an embarrassing note. But like, I like that because, so I just read a book called Hero on a Mission by Donald Miller. And he talked about every good story has those 4 elements I was telling you.
You were telling me about that.
Victim, villain, hero, and a guide. And if I'm doing things well, I'm the guide. But by telling you my own story of trying to be a hero in my own journey, which is kind of hard to explain. So why was I bringing that up? So, oh yeah, that's the point. Okay. So I share my failures because honestly, my main emphasis isn't to be the hero. It is to be the guide. And so you're the hero. And so I want to inspire pastors, Christian leaders, people who are struggling in life in general. And I feel like it's always my advantage that I have the willingness, and our marriage is fine with this too, of like, I'm going to lead with vulnerability and I'm going to share my highs and lows. And I thought was really helpful is, again, I'm kind of mixing the allegory here a little bit, or the analogy. There's one difference between a hero and a victim. You know what it is? One difference. What? The victim they both have heartache. They both have embarrassing moments. They both have sorrow. The hero keeps going and does something about it. The victim just lays back, you know? Right. So what's hard is I want to make sure, though, in my videos that I am not just being a victim and not looking for, oh no, I'm so sorry. And that's the part where that's when I want to make sure I'm not sharing too much. If the only response I'm evoking out of people is pity, is sorrow, that kind of thing. So that's why I haven't really made a vlog yet about what's next, because I feel like the only response would be pity and that I'm painting myself as a victim, and I'm not a victim. Anything you want to share to that? I'm already feeling like my throat's going out.
Oh, sorry. I just got distracted.
Okay. So you have no idea what I was talking about. That's fine.
Something about victim. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So that's what's hard is when you do share your problems right away, you look like you're positioning yourself as a victim.
That makes sense.
And I don't have interest in that. What I want to show, though, is like I share my sorrows and my weaknesses because I think the true hero is Jesus. It's not me. And so my identity is not wrapped in my abilities, my tenacity or whatever it is, like my hope is in Christ. So anyways, all that to say, a big part of the story, a lot of people reached out. So it was really embarrassing. So 2 weeks ago today, got on the phone call. This is, again, the difference between
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is the difference between transparency and authenticity. There are elements to the story that nobody needs to know.
Right.
But I do want to share like the takeaways, you know? So Friday morning, we decided, we were already in California getting ready. I was going to preach that Sunday, which was my 30th birthday. And we were already ready. But we just found out a few things about the church, and the church found out a few things about us. That the biggest bummer, I think the biggest reason I was sad or heartbroken or whatever is in my mind, like I already brought all those concerns up.
Right.
And so, because that's why I said I'm not the right fit, like, because I just don't do things the way you do things. And then I thought, well, maybe they just want to completely change the way they do things. So that's why I kept moving forward. I thought I was really straightforward about who I was, what I believe, what I do, right? Like, not to share too many details, but I was obnoxious about how, honest, like, about who I am.
Right.
And if you know, like, I'm not, oh, nice. Love when Alex is on. Let's go Texas. When, like, because something that I'm really grateful for that another pastor called me about this week, Ray Jones, he said, Trey, first of all, know that Passion Creek's a healthy church. And I was happy to hear that. But he said, second of all, no, you probably will never find another church that allows you to be you like Passion Creek does. And so he said, you can't put a dollar amount on that. Like, it is so true. Like, my church is so gracious and so generous, and they appreciate my authenticity or whatever.
Right.
Right. And so I'm really, can we just put that in the middle or something?
Well, you said you didn't like it in the frame, so that's why I was moving it.
When I preach, my throat never. But when I podcast, I get that little tickle. Is it because of the radio voice?
Maybe. I don't know. You're talking different than you were earlier, so I don't know.
So, yeah. So Friday, 2 weeks ago today, woke up, still kind of thinking, still getting a little bit nervous about some things we're finding out, some stuff they're finding out about us. All of this is because of my YouTube channel. I think, let's be real. And so, we just decided that morning, because we always said too, I told Jordan, even every step of the way, we're not desperate.
Right.
We are not wanting to leave. We're only doing this because of 18 different scripture confirmations, because of 5 different godly counsels,
right,
because of like all sorts of things. We're always just taking that next step. And so I don't know, like where we're at, we just decided, we thought God was saying yes, 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 yes. Friday came, big no. Close the door, go home. That was a very humiliating drive home. We were already in California. It was all but done. Like all the details were worked out as far as, pastoral position, all this different stuff. And now we're leaving. That was hard. What were you feeling that day? Do you think anything's helpful for people? Because again, most of the people that watch this are in ministry, interested in ministry. I don't want to share too much, but also just kind of want to open up because,
Yeah. I mean, I was confused.
Yeah.
Like it just seemed so clear to us. We had so many confirmations, and then to have the door close, the door slam really as rapidly as it did, was just startling. Like I think it took a while for me for it to like sink in of like, what just happened? Like how did all of this go from this to that? So I was definitely confused and frustrated, not like at anyone specifically, but just at the situation of, like you'd said, you had been so honest with everything, And for that to be what kind of came back, and so I don't know, it was just, the whole situation was just frustrating. And then I was sad. Like, I can count probably on one hand the number of times I've seen you like real upset, you know?
Yeah.
And so it just hurt me to see you that way. So.
Yeah. The biggest shock was like, again, I never once doubted, like, a lot of this was just philosophy of ministry stuff. And I never thought, remind me to,
okay.
I never thought that, I was going to change my philosophy of ministry. Like, I was willing to bend, but I wasn't willing to break.
Right.
But I did learn a lot. Like, this whole time I thought, okay, you know, whenever you take over an existing church, it's a slow process. You meet them where they're at and you slowly and gently take them where they need to be. And what's interesting is if you have an online ministry, that's impossible because they can see the stuff that you think about. So they saw the way I talk to my church. Of course, I know the context. This is talking to a specific local context in Queen Creek. I'm sharing and teaching about things that my people uniquely need that maybe those people don't need.
Right.
And it's also after 6 years of gaining their trust and working through all sorts of elements, you know, like I didn't just get there overnight. And so that's what's hard about online ministry I never thought about is if you put stuff out there, you know, you can never take it back. And to that, I'm not ashamed of that. I'm grateful for that.
Right.
But really think twice before you revitalize or, take over another church. Like, everything you've ever said is there. And again, it's not that I've ever said anything inappropriate or any of that nature. It's nothing I'm ashamed of, but it is things that like I would never say on day one because I just know there's a process to helping shape a culture and you just, don't go in full blast. And so that's something I didn't think about. And so that's really, really an interesting perspective. And yes, it's always hard not to take that stuff personally. I think the first weekend I took it very personal.
Yeah.
And I knew it was wrong. And I knew I'd get over it. But you allowed me to have a little pity party.
For one day.
My birthday.
On your birthday.
What'd I do?
You stayed in bed until like literally right before we had to leave for church. So I brought you food in bed.
Yeah. It felt great. I actually wound up reading Canoeing the Mountains that day, which was the book I needed in that moment. I thought it was really helpful and really encouraging. But I do want to say, like, yes, revitalization ain't no punk. Sometimes I think planters have it. I think so too. So planters don't have a building or a budget, but we have freedom. We have the ability to kind of just change on a dime. And I recognize that more than ever. So I'm really grateful to be a church planter. Very grateful for that. So anyways, so that Sunday, that weekend was hard. Again, the difference between being transparent and authentic. When I shared on Friday why I was going home, I just wanted to be as honest as possible. I think some of it got misinterpreted. I think it's that whole thing. I think if I were to do it again, I would first of all, I'd probably wait till Saturday. I had to share before Sunday because everyone was expecting me to preach and I needed to address it. But I think I would have made like a video. Because a video would have helped communicate my tone.
Right.
So I wound up doing an Instagram story later, and I think like the tone was helpful, and I think that put some people at ease because, you can read any text like, or, tone. Using your tone is how love can be shown or not. And so, and so I kind of changed it a little bit halfway through the day because I thought, okay, what I mean is correct, but I can see how that can be misinterpreted. But I'm really grateful for so many pastors and just friends reached out to me that day. And I do think that's true too, Andy. It's interesting that people who would view online content wouldn't consider context when assessing the content, but is that not the problem of all online stuff? And I think this actually also is, I need to be very careful here. I want to be very honoring, but I do think that's kind of also the generational gap that we're talking about. Our generation understands like online has a context still. But I think if you're from a different generation, I think maybe it just can be interpreted differently, So I didn't think about that. I thought, like the way I view my life is I'm always in process. So when I publish something, it's not perfect. It's not perfectly well-rounded. Even that though, again, I'm not saying anything I've said is heretical or anything I've said is wrong, but it did have the right, understanding the context is helpful. Anything you want to add to that weekend? So it was just a lot because, and we'll go to this now. When I drove home, what did I tell people? What I kept telling people on the phone, I'm just embarrassed.
Yeah. Yeah. Embarrassed. I think that's what it was. Yeah.
And like ashamed and
yeah.
Feel like an idiot. What did everybody keep telling me?
Why? Like you have no reason to.
That was really helpful. That's true. Why? I was like, I don't know, because I told everybody on Monday that I'm leaving, and now Friday I'm coming back home. And so that was like, it was a big ego hit, you know? And yeah, it's an established church in California that has a long history of doing a lot of great things. So it was one of those things where it was shocking my name was even in the mix. Mm-hmm. And it was shocking that that I made it so far. Like I was like, yeah, sure. It got to the point, throw in my resume. There's no way I'm making it, you know? So it was weird, man. Really weird. So, what else? So yeah, why was I ashamed? Why was I embarrassed? I'm not embarrassed now. I think if I wanted to save myself from grief, I would have done things differently. But I also know that I think I needed to experience some of that grief and some of that suffering. And I think it's helped my faith, you know? So I read something this morning that's really helpful. What?
No, you didn't miss any pizza.
No, yeah, and I didn't miss any pizza yet. Something I read this morning that was really helpful. It says, it doesn't say in the scriptures that hope endures all things. It says that love endures all things. And so I think in these last 2 weeks, all I've been able to hold on to, because I am embarrassed publicly, I made this big deal about moving and now I'm not. Went from like looking like I got this huge position to not. And so, you know, like the hope was dashed, but like I never felt more loved, both by the Lord, but also by you, by my friends, the way the community rallied around me and checked on me every day. You know, like I experienced a deeper love, and I think that's what makes all of it worth it so far.
Yeah.
I got a tickle that I'm fighting. I don't know. So why was I embarrassed? Well, it's because, so a lot of people told me, and you have to recognize too, this is online ministry stuff. We're in a new age of doing ministry. And I usually hate that because I like to go ancient. Like I like to learn from people before the Reformation. You know, like I like to really dig back, but, the general consensus is I ask people, okay, hey, I want to honor my church. How do I let them know? When do I let them know? The process that I was going to go through is February 27th, I would preach. That night, do a Q&A with that church. Then March 6th, preach one service, and they would vote that day. So they would fly me home. So that would have been last Sunday, and I would get home in time, and then the consensus was until you get the vote, don't tell your church. So once they vote you in, fly home, tell them, hey, here's what's going on. I didn't like that for a couple reasons. One is this last week we just had soccer camp, which was awesome.
So fun. And
I did not like ruining the momentum of a great outreach week by dropping that bomb and then saying, see you in the morning. You know, I didn't like that at all. I did also logically thought, we're in an internet world. Mm-hmm. They're going to find out. Like, and they did. Like, people were posting on my wall February 24th saying, hey, we heard it's you. We're excited, you know? I'm not going to be able to finish. So there's another reason I had to tell my church before any of this happened, but also like we use language of family, body of Christ, and I really do believe that my people, I believe in the priesthood of all believers. And so I wanted our congregation to be involved in this process of understanding and this process of discerning God's will for our life, but also for the church and what the next step was for the church. It was never going to be closed down. It was always, we had a succession plan in place. I just thought, what a great moment. Like, if my life goal is always to mature people into the person and work of Jesus, this is a great moment for them to carry the responsibility. If I told them after, they had no opportunity to be a part of the process. Right. I wanted them to be a part of the process to help them in their maturity with Christ. So that's why I met everybody and I told everybody stuff. So my vlog that I made, my documentary 2 weeks ago, was a very condensed version of that talk, along with different real life stuff. Like, it was like that whole weekend, like one of the hardest weekends of my life, my grandfather's funeral, telling our leadership team, telling our staff, telling the whole church, all of that. But I have a 25-minute version. Again, people don't know the context, but I sent a private 25-minute version to every member at our church in case they weren't there, because it was a 3-day weekend. Yeah. That gave a whole lot more context of what I mean when I say I feel like God is leading us there. It's not just some word on high. It was through scripture. It was through godly confirmation, all that stuff. But then I posted it on Monday and just told everybody. So I told the church Sunday night, and then I told the world Monday. And that was like hey, that wasn't smart, because it does kind of look like presumptuous that I thought I already had the job. If you look at the wording, it was all correct. Right. The very last phrase in the whole vlog was, I don't have the job yet. This isn't even mine. We don't even know. Right. And so people kind of forgot about that in that process. I'm not looking to defend myself though. But again, actually Facundo commented this like towards the beginning, like, this is who I am. Like, I'm going to lead how I always lead. Again, I know there's ways I have to change in my leadership. Like, there's a give and take, but that is one thing that I always do. And so I think that wasn't helpful. But yeah, just some stuff that I've done in the past. A lot of it's just philosophy of ministry, and I realized that it wouldn't be a good fit. So anyways, that's the embarrassed part, because in theory, if I told no one, I would have by Friday made that decision to come back. My church would have known nothing. Right. And so now it's like, the devil in your ear is kind of like, now the people don't trust you. It looks like you are wanting to leave. You went to some place that's bigger and quote unquote better. And so I hate how there's a possibility that some people in my church are now thinking that, like, we've spent 6.5 years dedicating our life to Passion Creek. And now it's like, that's the bummer. It's like, did I lose people's trust? Right. That's the part that's hard.
Well, that was always the worry from the beginning, because we knew we didn't know for sure if you were taking the job or not, So that was always like a question of like, when we were considering, do we tell them early? It was like, well, what if this all falls through for, something crazy happens and we don't go? Are people going to be upset? Like, are they going to feel like we wanted to leave and that we know that we lost trust? But ultimately, I think that when we really like process through that, like, being able to give them that responsibility and make them feel like they were part of the journey and not just like kept in the dark, and then all of a sudden, bam, hey, see you later, we're leaving. Right. Like that process of allowing them to be in the prayers and be in the discernment process, I feel like was beneficial to them. Like, I still think that we did it the right way.
I think in the moment it looks dumb, but I think in the future we'll be like, wasn't that so helpful for everybody? I think if it wasn't helpful for anybody, it wasn't helpful for us, but I think it could be helpful for everybody else. Right. Joe, I as far as tangible, honestly, just supporting us on this channel, hitting the like and subscribe right now. I got some stuff coming out soon, but for now, I love the support. Supporttrey.com. We're kicking back up the Patreon, having some great talks. So those are the two ways. I appreciate you asking that. So So I was trying to read it, keep up with all the messages.
Yeah.
Transparency is hard. Transparency versus authenticity. Oh, what's up, Harrison Family Values channel? He always shouts me out when I go on to his. Mm-hmm. He's a great guy. So yeah, did it make my life harder? Yes. Do we often run from hard things and then lose out from growing like Jesus? Yeah. So, I don't know. If I were to do it all over again, would I do everything the same? What I'm grateful for, I think part of it is how forward I was in that announcement video that I think put me at the wrong foot with some people at that church that I was being looked at. But then I think, how great is that? Because they would have eventually found that out.
Right.
So I think it's great that we started out that way. Like, I didn't hide anything.
Yeah.
I'd rather find all this out 2 weeks before getting voted in versus 2 weeks after getting voted in.
Right.
So,
even
that's
that
big.
though, I feel like we had members of our church and friends who said, we were actually really thankful you told us.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Like, we felt honored to be like, wow, like, they really trust us and they really love us to let us in on this. So I think, I think that at least
in theory, we gain trust for some people.
Board, there may be one or two, but I feel like for the most part, they felt honored that we wanted to include them on this process.
Yeah, that's true. We did get a lot of that from people.
Yeah.
And that just shows, like what Ray said to me earlier this week, like, man, Passion Creek Church is such a healthy church. Yeah. And I love them. Like, it's real, and we're growing together. Those same people that told us those things are people saying, hey, we're reading our Bible for the first time. We just finished the Old Testament. We are praying as a family,
Right.
I'm Sabbathing. We're resting and enjoying the goodness of God. Like, that's why so much of this is relief. Thank you so much, Pastor Jay. So much of this is relief because we never wanted to leave our family.
Right.
Both spiritual and literal. Like,
yeah,
we have both sets of grandparents here, for our kids. Mm-hmm. Everything. I mean, it's California, guys. Like, I didn't really have much interest in moving there with the prices of everything and all that mess. We like our freedom here in Arizona. So there's a lot that I think from our perspective, we were sacrificing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take the way that just, it hurts,
right?
And it's hard not to take it personal. And then it makes me, like, I felt very insufficient the last couple of weeks. I felt very, just kind of like a loser, So it was really weird. It was really weird to process.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add to that?
I don't know. I felt weird processing it too, just because I know, I know it was a whole family thing, but so much of it was just like, you took the brunt of most of it,
Mm-hmm.
And so it was weird for me to process too, because it was like, it's secondhand happened to me kind of in a way. So it was more of like processing my, how I deal with you dealing with things. You know what I mean? Like being next to you and helping you process in ways that you needed to. Yeah,
I was really grateful the way you let me process. I was on the phone a lot.
Our entire drive home.
It was a 7.5 hour drive home, which it's supposed to only be like 5.5. So that was another frustrating thing because of traffic and everything. And we were tired because we were just at Disneyland the day before. But I was on the phone with 20 different people.
You were on the phone for probably 6.5. You probably had 1 hour, in spurts, not 1 hour straight, but little bits of time that added up to an hour over the drive that you weren't on the phone talking.
I just really wonder, and I want to encourage you guys with this. One thing that's been helpful about me living a transparent life is I have a lot of deep friendships. I tell people about what I'm going through. And so I had so many people that I can just be real with from the get. And they loved me and cared for me. Good. We got a thumbs down. Maybe we'll get a pizza next. That's always what happens. We get a thumbs down and then a pizza. But not free pizza, by the way. They charge me. But anyways, so great. Like Jason Mayfield, he was there, and I was crying on the phone with him, but I didn't, it was just raw and honest. Friends from yesteryear, like it was just great. I only mentioned Jason because most of you guys know him from the channel stuff, but there's a lot of friends. Tim Allred spoke life into me when I needed it. It was super helpful. Man, there's so many people that were just like, gave me the words I needed to hear, and all the advice was different.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't hearing it, but you talked me through some of it. But.
It was so helpful to just know like all these different angles. And so, yeah, so that's where we're at. So we're really, really excited to be home. I have like a sense of new life, new excitement about what's next for our church at Passion Creek. I am though confused because like we really feel like God told us to do all of this.
Right.
And again, like we can get it wrong. So in our view, like I will never claim like inerrancy, but through scripture and godly counsel, and also the Ignatius exercise of just like, that's not what we based everything off of, but like, what is it? Like, what is our heart's desire? Because we thought, okay, we're doing the will of the Father. We are bathed in scriptures. We're in community. So like the scripture says in the Psalms, seek the Lord and he will grant you the desires of your heart.
Right.
And it felt like the desire of making a difference. Like we were like, okay, we started to desire, okay, we really think something great can happen in California. That's what it was. It was never we want to be done here, but we thought, well, something great can happen there. And so that was just hard to just like, why God did you take us down this whole path? And even Jason, which I thought was so interesting, every step of the way, he's like, Trey, until it's done, it's not done. And sometimes God takes you here to get you there. And so you never know, you never know why God did this. And so I may not know for a decade. Who knows? Maybe this was the jump start our church needed to kind of get out of a COVID funk, and maybe we'll jump into this next stage with like a white heart devotion. I'm not sure. What am I missing here? You're doing the comments.
You got people asking.
Okay. May I also say that it can be similar in loss of a loved one, knowing you still have loved ones that depend love on you. Feeling the loss on one doesn't minimize love of the other. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's such a weird. Our thoughts towards the California position and the thoughts towards here are like totally different. How's Caleb handling it? Yeah. So what a great thing. So that's another thing I'm grateful for. Since day one, I've been open with Caleb and honest. And so Caleb got to the point where he said, okay, I'm willing to take over this position of lead pastor. He was very tentative. So he's like, I love the people. I love where I'm at. But maybe God is like pushing me into this area of discomfort. And so he was willing. And so I'm super grateful for that and his obedience. And so that's kind of how we positioned it that night when we announced to the church. I said, hey guys, Caleb's here. And this is true. Like when we came up with the vision of our church and the language we use, it's never been alone. Like it's me and Caleb doing a lot of these things along with our wives. And, it's really been a team effort on a lot of stuff. And so what we're really grateful for is Shelby, his wife, told Jordan this, and Caleb told me this too. Like they felt really bad for us of everything that happened, but that same day they just felt like a sense of relief, like excitement, like, oh, we get to do ministry together still.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful for that. That's who I was most bummed about. So that was the first person I called before anything was like, hey, Caleb, are you okay? Because here's what's going on. And again, we told the church until I'm voted, I'm the pastor of Passion Creek. And so the lead pastor. And so, yeah, love Caleb so much and Shelby. They've been troopers because, again, as much as our life has been kind of flipped around a lot, so is theirs. They were impacted the most. Yeah. And so I hate that. I hate that I did that to him. But I also am grateful that we've had just a great, genuine friendship. And so I think that's helped us navigate those waters. But I do know that like that's one of my biggest emphases in leadership moving forward is making sure, I don't want to, like, I kind of feel like I owe Caleb like just extra effort, extra what can I do to make his life better? Because I've definitely made his life crazy.
Yeah. They've been great, though.
They've been better than we deserve. Super grateful for him. But again, so that leads me to another idea that I had, you know, like what I've learned more than anything. So I can be a little bit romantic about church and the books I read. I like the ones, what, about me and you? Is that what you're thinking?
No, just give you a funny look.
Idealistic. Is that a better phrase? Because I'm not romantic. It's true. I can be a bit idealistic about things. So like sometimes I fall into the trap of, well, if we just all love each other, everything's going to work out. And so like, I don't like to think of the church as a business, and it's not, but it is a biology. And so there are things like chemistry, and there are things like understanding who's the head and how do things work here and all of that. That's really important. And so just if you have the greatest intentions, it doesn't mean you're going to change an organization. You're not going to change something overnight. So that's a big lesson that I've learned this past few weeks. But I do think the biology of Passion Creek, again, Lord willing, has strengthened because of all of this. I did get a little bit more transparent in our Q&A with the Patreon community this last week. So if you are a member, $10 and higher, supporttrey.com, you can see that, and that kind of shares a little more details of what happened. Is there anything else you want to mention? Anything you've been thinking about?
You told me to remind you about a question.
Yeah, go put it up.
I don't remember. It's way up here.
Oh, yeah. I think I kind of addressed it.
I don't remember. You just
yeah. It was Alex's question, huh?
Yeah.
Are y'all able to share about what about YouTube caused the sudden change? I think it's just, man, I need to be careful here. Last thing I want is more heat.
Right. It's
just the things that I talk about, and I think it was great. It just showed who I really am, how I really think, who I read, who influences me, my philosophy of ministry, all things well within the Baptist faith and message, all things. I'm not like this crazy lunatic, and they didn't say that either. But like we were able to like really show like, okay, my philosophy of ministry, some of my emphasis, like I know that like the emphasis I have, like not every church needs to have the emphasis but I know that God like wired me a certain way. So our church, like even a more simpler example, like the difference between Passion Creek and Heart Cry. My father's church just has different things they focus on versus ours. That's because my dad's a different person. Their congregation is different. They're a lot more blue collar, cowboy. They're going to look at things and their problems are going to be different. And so for me and the way I think and how God has formed me, the people I quote, all those things, they're not wrong. Nobody ever said that it was wrong. It's just different than what they expected. And so I think that's the best way to say it.
Yeah.
While still honoring, honoring everybody in the room. And that's what I want to make sure. Like, I'm not saying that to lie. Like I do want to honor that church. And I think they've done a good job of not like throwing me under the bus or making it a bigger deal than it was. It's just a simple. The only critique I have is I wish their process included more people being clued in before the whole church knew, because I think a lot of this heartache, a lot of this public part could have totally been avoided if more people were included in the selection process.
Right.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
So that's that. And so I learned a lot about like what our church would do in those kind of situations, and there's just a lot of things to learn. And again, I think by me being open and public and posting stuff online just made everything at a grander scale. It sped up what would have inevitably happened.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it, right? And so people have said like, oh man, you were saved from that church. I don't know about that, but I think maybe that church was saved from me. Like it was just like, it wasn't a right match. They gave a great example. It's like when you date somebody, man, you really enjoyed each other, but marriage is a whole nother conversation. And so I think that's where it's at. I think dating, we enjoyed each other, but marriage would have been totally different. It wasn't the right fit. So I believe that too. I believe that, and I know they believe that. So it's really helpful.
Right.
So it is what it is. Some people have also said like this hurts your career. I've never viewed ministry as a career ever. I could care less about that. That's why I thought it was weird even leaving Passion Creek in the first place. It's like, I don't ever want to, so I don't care about certain titles. I don't care about, like, I know this for a fact. I will never, hear me, I'm Southern Baptist. I will never climb like the Southern Baptist ladder of leadership. I have made way too many videos to, like, I have excluded myself from that conversation, and that's fine. Like, I'm actually go to Christian Twitter and you're like, I don't really want to please these people anyway. So that's one more thing I want to kind of share. And it's on my weekly Tribune coming out this next week. You have to really kind of determine, my dude, what's up, man? Do you remember Tito Brown? He was the youth pastor in when I was at oh my goodness, Olive Branch.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, I love you, Trey. That is. So he escaped California too. So, anyways, what was I saying? Yeah, I love you. Just caught my eye. Oh yeah, that is this whole online thing. So like, by me posting a lot of stuff and being like real straight up for a long time now, 5 years, like I have kind of put myself in a situation where certain opportunities will never present themselves. But also I'm putting myself in positions for other opportunities to present themselves. I've been able to speak at conferences. I have had relationships with pastors well outside my tribe. The people right here tonight, I wouldn't have met you if I didn't do what I did now. So I'm super grateful for it. But you need to determine before you go all in on online stuff, especially the way that, like, what I tell you to do is like vlogging and being authentic and real and just talking about things in process. If you want to like lead an institution one day, you have to be very measured. You have to be like, you have to figure out what the lines are within your tribe and don't get anywhere close to those lines. And I don't have any interest in that. So, I have zero desire for that. Like, I want to, when I say, again, like, you need to be careful because what about lines and all this stuff? I actually think Mark Driscoll has a really helpful analogy to this. It's the difference between states and countries. So like, states are different tribes where we're all a part of America, but there's different things about California versus Arizona, right? And so like, that's my view on a lot of different tribes. In fact, I did a whole series called The Kingdom of Tribes. Check that out on my channel, where like, as a Southern Baptist, that makes me one state, but I know the kingdom of God is way bigger than just Southern Baptist. So I like to drive over to hang out with my Presbyterian friends and drive over and hang out with Methodists and drive over, like, I love that. Like I'm somebody who thinks that way, who appreciates the greater capital C church. But when you do that, especially today and online and trying to get people, trying to trap people, man, if you post a lot of stuff online, you kind of make it impossible to climb the ladder in your own state. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm starting to be known as a YouTube influencer at association events. Let's go. Yeah. So Vaughn's in SBC too. SBC would be so lucky to have you climb their ladder. Well, thank you. You're like, what is your denomination again? It's something Reformed, something. I appreciate that. Love you're more committed to Christ and him being glorified than stick with one tribe. I try to be the same. Learning to branch out can be fun and hard. Yeah, it's really hard. And I think this is another thing that I'm learning. Am I not letting you talk enough tonight? Do you want to veer into different things after this?
Whatever.
Okay. That was so romantic of me. That is what's hard because like, this is what's making me wonder with my Patreon, because there are certain authors I'm reading that I'm like, yeah, I don't want a new believer to read this at all. And so when I share those things on YouTube, like I know the context. I know like, yeah, this guy, when I'm quoting this guy, I'm not saying I approve of everything, which I hate when people say that. Just quote. If the quote's good, I think you should share the quote. But I'm wondering if Patreon's that avenue where I can talk about writers and thinkers that I know like could be taken wrong. And if you read all their stuff, it does get a little bit wacko. So that is something that I've learned from this process, because there are people, if you look at my reading list, I read people I don't agree with. And so when I post my reading list, this isn't me telling you read all of these books. This is me saying, I am a missionary at heart. I want to learn the heartbeat of the people. I am listening to things that I don't agree with. I listen to podcasts that are not Christian at all because I want to figure out what's in the minds of people.
Well, if I can say, whenever you quote from the pulpit, like whenever you quote from someone, like you make sure you say like, hey, like, yes, I did read this book. No, I don't agree with 100% of everything this guy says, but this was helpful, you know, like,
yeah.
So when you are quoting someone in that context, I feel like you do a good job of saying, don't like, or like this, if you're a new believer, this is really advanced for you. Like, don't go read this book. But here, I thought this was a helpful quote, you know, like, so I feel like you're always really good about giving that context when you're quoting in your sermon.
Good. I appreciate that. Because I think that was one of the scary things about that about me that they were concerned about, and I understand. Like, for example, there's two authors I love that I think every pastor should read, and every person who's in the second half of life should read, and it's Henry Nouwen and Ronald Rolheiser, and they're both Catholic priests. And so there's a lot of stuff about their theology I would straight up disagree with. There's also a huge argument to be made that a lot of Catholic writers and thinkers actually have a really different theology than like the everyday Catholic. So, but anyways, like what I know is to go to them for certain things. Like Henry Nouwen's great for pastors to check their heart and make sure that you're not doing ministry for popularity or for prestige or for possessions. That's his 3 kind of prong thing. Like I need that to like make sure my soul is constantly, I'm not trying to do things for my own influence, but it's to serve people. Like those books have been so helpful for me. And again, talking about the poetic language, I think what I've enjoyed is reading somebody like a Ronald Rolheiser, because the way he talks about his ongoing, abiding relationship with Jesus just seems so beautiful, seems so profound and vibrant and loving and poetic. And then my tribe, when we talk about it, it's so dogmatic and again, like, you know, so cut and dry. And again, I love being in my I'm going to get in trouble again. I love being in my tribe, but that's why I like to read others and let that influence the way I talk and think, but making sure I'm still within the bounds of what I've committed to as a Southern Baptist. So it's really hard. Quoting from the pulpit definitely needs a nuance. Yeah, that's true. I think it's interesting to listen to others who are in different Christian camps or not even Christian at all. We can still learn a lot from them. Pastors need to stay relevant and not closed-minded. That's another thing. I think, to bring one more thing into the conversation, and then Jordan, if you want to take this another direction, think about another topic. But, you know, a lot of the conversations I was thinking through, because, you know, this church in California was leans older. I think that's fair to say. I think they would agree to that. And so a lot of people, you know, because the 90s solution to getting younger people is just make better music and wear cooler clothes and you're good. And so... Right. And I love Reformed folks a lot, but yeah, I need stuff that gets in my heart too. So anyways, what was I saying? I'm so easily distracted, Jordan. It's so bad.
Relevant, close-minded.
Yeah. So how do you reach young people? I think, you know, sure, I think sometimes music can be a big difference, but I think it's just this general spirit of curiosity, you know, that's what's attractive. This spirit of love, like becoming a people of love, and allowing people to be where they're at and walk with them in their own journey as they pursue Christ. I think those are the things that like young people are starving for. And some of you are saying, yeah, that's what older people are starving for as well. But, you know, I think that's a whole lot more than just changing what you wear and changing the volume of the music and what kind of songs you sing. And I think if we just keep the conversation at that level, that's so surface level, you know, there's so much more to it in reaching the younger generation. Is there anything you want to pivot to at all as I'm like thinking about getting another water because my throat's all weird?
I don't know. I mean,
how are you feeling now?
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited. Like, I'm excited to be here, like in Arizona. We've obviously both, aside from the little bit in California that we were for in the college years and the first year of marriage, but like this is home. Like, this is where our family is. and again, our church, I love our people.
Yeah.
Like, we've made such great relationships with them. So the thought of like leaving all of them was heartbreaking.
Well, yeah.
So like that, I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited that I get to continue. Like, I launched a women's ministry, like with every intention of, like you said, like being a lifer, seeing it through, of like walking through life with these women, and to like, you know, I felt like I was at this weird like limbo of like, I want to invest in these women, but at the same time, I don't want them to feel like I was pouring into them just to like leave.
Yeah.
So like I put a lot of stuff on hold where like I wasn't doing events and I wasn't doing much of anything with it, because I didn't want them to feel blindsided when the time came. So I am excited too, now that it's like, okay, I mean, obviously we don't want to rush into anything, and we're taking time to process and pray, but there is part of me that's like excited to get back into like doing life with these women again, you know, like, so that's been nice. Like, that's been a nice change, like having like that inspiration and excitement to do things, or to plan events, or to do any of that. But then, if I'm being completely honest, I was like really looking forward
to leaving this
house.
Yeah.
And so that makes me really sad. Like,
we're in a really small house. It was a move for us, and we said no way we would stay here beyond 4 years.
We said 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
We said it was a transition house. We sold our old house. We had a bunch of equity, paid off my student loans. And
we have way more equity now.
We do. Wanted to do the same thing with this one, of like stay just a couple of years so we could gain some equity, pay off his student loans. And kind of just be debt free, and then, you know, move into a house that's kind of better suited for us. But I just feel like I feel like I have the gift of hosting hospitality, and I love having people over.
We don't have the house for it.
And we don't have a house for it. Like, our living room is tiny.
It's the
our
worst.
kitchen is cut off. Like, we don't have like an island that, you know, you can hang out around. Like, and so it just, like, I feel like I'm missing out on being able to use my gift.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a house to be able to use it. And I know, like, you know, whatever the Lord will use whatever you have. I'm not saying that. Okay. But I'm just saying, like, the prospect of
that was exciting,
being able to get into a house that really fit our needs, that our girls had more space to have their own rooms if they wanted them, or share if they, you know, like have a guest room, or whatever it is that we needed.
And like, we're not in our 20s anymore. So like, you know, we're 30. Like, that's like that time where you now have the house that you're going to have, like, that suits your needs.
Quote-unquote dream house. You know, like, you plan to be in long term, like that your kids will grow through their teenagers. And
yeah, because they're getting close to,
I can't believe
she's turning 7 in 3 days. So they're like, outgrowing the space for sure.
I don't even remember what book it was in, but I read a book and it talked about how she wanted, and that's what it was. Her house was the hangout house for her teenage kids.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Like, I want to have a house that they're proud of, that they feel comfortable bringing their friends to. Because then I know, like, I get to meet their friends. I get to know their friends. I get to know what they're doing. And I have the opportunity to pour into the friends of my children, you know? So I want to be able to have a house that's going to fit us in the long run of, like, this is the hangout house. Like, everyone wants to be at the band camp house.
And I want a cooler studio.
Well, of course you do.
Be baller.
But anyway, so that's a very, like, superficial, like, basic, like,
that might be the biggest thing we're sad about.
Yeah, and it seems
and we can
like,
still do that, but the problem is, in our area, the equity is great, but everything else is overpriced. So like, that's the tough part.
Yeah.
Rocking a hard place.
Anyways, so all that to say, I would still like to move within Queen Creek, but overall, like, I'm glad that we're here. Like,
yeah.
I'm glad. I'm excited to do.
And we're praying that church gets the right guy. You know, they have so many great things going for them. Yeah. So I'm excited for them. Just don't know why it seemed like the Lord led us down that path, but that's why my sermon last Sunday, one of my main the main takeaway was, Lord, I don't fully understand you, but I fully trust you. And so I think that this has been an exercise for us in faith, hope, and love. The greatest of these is love. And so we felt loved by God despite the rejection, despite the heartache, despite the all that. God loves us. And, and, we are going to keep sowing even when nothing seems to be growing. So I don't even know what I mean by that, because Passion Creek's doing really well.
Not growing,
I know.
It is.
It is. It's doing
well.
It's doing really well. We're baptizing this Sunday.
And
I'm
soccer
excited.
camp was seriously so good.
It was amazing. We had an incredible, that's another thing, sovereignty of God. We had such a great week this week. We had 90 kids that we blessed with a great soccer camp. Everybody loved it. Great outreach. Made a lot of new relationships with parents. And so we needed this week of momentum and excitement. And we're baptizing Sunday, and we had a great family feast last Sunday night. Free food. It was great. So I can't think of a better get back on your feet, get going again than what God has put in our hearts and the people of Passion Creek. So all that to say, what a life. I'm grateful to document it. I don't care. People think I went ahead of the gun, whatever. Probably did. It is what it is. So yeah, probably going to make a short vlog about this. I'm not going to talk about the thing I need to get done until I just finish it, and then I'll post about it, and then I can move on with my life. I really think I'm going to make a lot more vlogs once the thing is finished. And if you followed me, you know what that thing is. The last month I put it off because of all of this madness. So I'm going to get back into, this is me messing up those phrases again, back into the saddle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Back into the saddle on Monday. Cool. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us. I need to go see if my sons won. And it's not why, but what did God teach you, or what did you learn? Amen. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, not why, but what. And yeah, God's doing a lot. More than anything, we feel loved. And so what a gift that is. Grace and peace to you. Hit the subscribe bell icon, all the things. I really want to make a lot more videos again. I'm very grateful for those who have stuck around. Let me know what you enjoy about my content so I can make more of it. See you guys later.